What is up, guys? So we recently got some pretty huge news about Crisis on Infinite Earths, news that brings up a fairly interesting theory that I will talk about extensively in this video. Lyla Michaels was a character who was created for Crisis on Infinite Earths, where she was the adoptive daughter of the Monitor. She was saved by the Monitor, and then he raised her, and then she had a fairly big role in the crossover, which I will talk about in this video. But up until now, Lyla Michaels in the Arrowverse has been very, very different, as she has been a member of Argus, and then actually the head of Argus and the wife of John Diggle, where they actually had a son together. She has nothing to do with the comic book character at all, except for her name Lyla Michaels, as well as her name Harbinger, which is her field name, her agent name, her code name, anything like that. But she is very different from the comic book character that is until Crisis on Infinite Earths. There was a poster revealed for the Crisis showing Lyla Michaels wearing her Harbinger costume. She is going to become Harbinger, the actual Harbinger, in the upcoming crossover. This costume is very comic book accurate, like literally the exact same design, except for where there was just bare skin in the comics that covered it up with blue. Other than that, this is a lot more practical. This definitely is an incredibly comic book accurate costume, and this is something that I'm genuinely very excited for, because Lyla Michaels having the role that she's had on Arrow up until now, she's already a good character, but having her role that she originally had in Crisis on Infinite Earths, that is something that could be really, really interesting, and that's something that I'm very excited for. But like I said, it does bring up an interesting theory that I will talk about. Before I talk about that, however, I want to talk about something that happened on Twitter. Mark Guggenheim, the upcoming writer of Crisis on Infinite Earths, as well as the showrunner behind Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow for a lot of its seasons, tweeted yesterday, or the day before they released this news, that there's going to be some pretty huge news in the next day involving the fact that it proves that they've been working on Crisis on Infinite Earths for a very long time. He says almost 10 years, but it's more like, 8 years or something like that. But I replied that I think it has something to do with Lyla Michaels becoming Harbinger, or maybe something Green Lantern related. It turns out I was right in my first guess, so I just wanted to mention that because it's a pretty cool thing that just happened. Now, this confirmation and this poster revealing that Lyla Michaels will become the Harbinger she was in the comics does bring up a very interesting theory, a theory that states that she will not become Harbinger in the upcoming crossover, but instead she has been Harbinger this entire time. And I don't mean the code name. She clearly has had the code name Harbinger for a very long time. I mean the fact that she's been working with the Monitor this entire time, and she has a past with the Monitor, and she will not get her powers in the crossover. She probably had them this entire time, and she's been hiding them for some reason or another. Now, in the original Crisis, Harbinger was a woman named Lyla Michaels, who was rescued from being lost at sea as a baby by the Monitor. The Monitor then raised her as his daughter, and he grew to see her as his daughter, and also vice versa. As an adult, she helped the Monitor study the multiverse, and eventually, during the crossover, she brought together all these heroes. She definitely had a fairly big role, even at one point being controlled by the Anti-Monitor to kill the Monitor, who again she saw as her father. Now, if the Arrowverse is going to be at all comic book accurate in the upcoming crossover, which typically it isn't, even with huge events, typically it's not very comic book accurate, which usually I don't mind. There are some things I do mind that they change from the comics, but most of the time I think changes from the comics can be good. And with Lyla Michaels, if they change it where she is just a regular human being who happened to get powers and became pretty important in the crossover, I would not mind. But if they are going comic accurate, then that means something else. If she's going to have the exact same backstory she had in the comics, then that would mean she was saved and rescued and then raised by the Monitor, and for some reason or another now returned to Earth and is now acting as a regular human being, or as regular human being who actively and typically hangs out with a lot of superheroes and also is the head of a super secret spy agency. Other than that, she is a regular human being without superpowers, so she's hiding for some reason. It's more likely that she is a regular human being who will become a Harbinger in the crossover, and has never met Novu at this point, but going under the assumption that she actually was raised by Novu and has been this entire time. Like I said, this can bring up an interesting theory, and I do think it can definitely fit into the Arrowverse. Now, it's been well documented that Martin Revu is basically omnipotent, and he can also see the future. At the end of Arrow Season 7, he told Oliver that he saw a lot of different futures with the upcoming Crisis, and in every single one of them, Oliver Queen dies. Now, it seems like he's going to be saying the same thing to Barry Allen, so maybe he's messing with them, maybe he's pushing them to sacrifice themselves because he thinks they need to, but not because they will 100% die. But it's possible that he does see the future. If he does, he's probably been planning for the Crisis for a very, very long time, probably well over a decade, because for a being who's over 1 billion years old, a decade is not really a lot of time at all. I mean, it's only really a couple minutes for him in comparison, probably like way, way less than that. But anyway, maybe he took Lyla Michaels and deliberately wanted to get her close to as many key players in the upcoming Crisis as possible. So seeing the future, he saw that a great way to do this would be for her to get close to John Diggle. This is why she served in the military and then met Diggle and then eventually married him, and then also they broke up or divorced, but then they got together and they married again and then even had a son. She then became also a member of Argus, which definitely would put her close to a lot of other superheroes, as Argus definitely has a lot of dealings with superheroes in the Arrowverse as we've seen so far. Doing this, she would become close with Diggle, who seems to be becoming a Green Lantern in the upcoming crossover, so it's possible that he will also have a big role in the crossover and he will be a key player. But either way, even if he doesn't become a Green Lantern, it seems like in the upcoming season of Arrow season 8, that is, he will have a big role in Oliver's journey. In Oliver's journey, his Crisis quest will definitely be very, very, very important, and he is basically the main key player. Obviously, this would mean that Lyla Michaels is very close to Oliver Queen as well, and over the course of the Arrowverse, she's had on multiple occasions worked with Barry Allen and even once the Legends and even Supergirl during the Invasion crossover. So getting close to Diggle certainly allowed her to get close to a lot of key players, getting close to Diggle, that is, and also becoming the head of Argus, which maybe was her goal this entire time. And getting close to all these key players like Oliver Queen, Barry Allen, Kara Danvers even, and John Diggle would allow her to report back to the Monitor or tell him something about these people. Or maybe, considering he probably knows basically everything, maybe she's there to help them, maybe she's there to make sure that they survive to the crossover, because up until this point she has helped these characters out quite a lot. I don't know if she's been, important for them surviving up until this point, but I think she has definitely helped quite a lot. So maybe that's why she's here. Maybe she's here. She's been helping John Diggle and Oliver Queen, sometimes even the Flash, to make sure that they are alive for the upcoming crossover. And I'm sure that if they were ever in a position where they would 100% die, maybe she would even use her powers at that point, and maybe she would need to bring them back or something like that. Either way, I do think that it is a possibility that Lyla has been working for the Monitor this entire time, considering she has been working with all these potential key players. I mean, obviously Barry Allen and Oliver Queen will be key players, but I do think John Diggle and Supergirl and a lot of other characters, considering she has been working with them and has been close with a lot of them, it makes a lot of sense that she's been placed where she has been placed, and it makes a lot of sense that she's been Harbinger this entire time, or that she's been working with the Monitor and probably was raised by the Monitor this entire time. But maybe even more than that, more than the fact that this would be a really cool twist, more than the fact that it would make it more comic book accurate, and also it would have Lyla have more of a connection to the Arrowverse's storyline and also the Crisis, it would also be even cooler than that, because this would mean that the Arrowverse has been leading up to Crisis a little bit longer than we thought, and from the perfect point. Now, it seemed like the Arrowverse has been leading up to Crisis since the Flash Season 1, Episode 1, where we saw the newspaper from the future. The Flash disappears in the Crisis of 2024 newspaper, which later in Season 5 became the Crisis of 2019 newspaper, but it seemed like that was when they started teasing Crisis. But if Lyla Michaels has been working for the Monitor this entire time, that means that they've been teasing Crisis since the very beginning, Arrow Season 1. Lyla was introduced near the end of Arrow Season 1, so having the fact that the first Arrowverse season ever, it was the first season to tease the Crisis instead of the fourth season or the third year of the Crisis, which, don't get me wrong, that teaser was a great start to the Crisis on Infinite Earths storyline, or the Crisis on Infinite Earths setup. But if the first season of the Arrowverse was the first season to tease the Crisis, then this is just everything that it's been building up to since the very beginning, instead of, just the beginning of The Flash. And I think that is just way cooler, and that all lies within Lyla Michaels, who is becoming Harbinger, and definitely has been a character that is directly connected to Crisis on Infinite Earths, so technically it kind of has been a tease this entire time. But if she has been directly working with the Monitor and she has been Harbinger this entire time, or that version of Harbinger, then this would mean that Arrow Season 1 directly teased, not only that, but has been directly setting up the Crisis, and has been since the very beginning of the Arrowverse. This is just really, really awesome. So so I do think, and at least I do hope, that this theory will come true, because I think it would make the Arrowverse more complete. I think it would make her more comic accurate, which again, don't really care that much, but I mean, either way, it would be cool. But all in all, I think it would make everything a lot better. It would also be an awesome twist, so, you know, it's a win-win-win-win-win if Lyla Michaels has been working for the Monitor this entire time. So that is the theory. Let me know in the comments down below 2 things. Do you think that the theory will come true? And do you want it to? Do you think that will improve the Arrowverse, or do you think it's not necessary? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.